Hello, 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 and welcome to Degrees of Freedom, where I go over 5 slides in 15 minutes talking about the note industry so you can be enlightened about your own degrees of freedom. Hello, my name is Dr. Jason Engerman, and I'll be a helpful guide today. Welcome to Degrees of Freedom. And I've got an echo. 5 slides in 15 minutes talking about that's never happened before. There we go. All right, sorry about that. Had a little hiccup. Nonetheless, I'm still here, and we're going to be talking about the mindset of a banker. And so we've got games to talk about. We've got the note finance game, delegation, the big secret, and then inside the mind of a banker. I'm really excited about today's episode because many people don't understand the secret thoughts that bankers kind of have. And so I'm going to unveil that for you and kind of give you a behind the scenes look at what it really means to be a banker. So let's get right into it. The information presented on the Engerman Estates channel is for educational use and purposes only. I'm not a licensed financial institution, not an investment advisor, not a financial strategist, a lawyer, or a CPA. Engerman Estates is not liable for any losses resulting from any action taken by a viewer based on the information presented or shared on this channel. Engerman Estates cannot promise the earnings or returns based on historical reports or achieved by any party or affiliate in connection with the information presented. I want to get into this. I know my pictures over here look a little crazy. Be mindful. I am an educator. I am a professor. Sometimes we throw these things up and we're trying to make a point here. So follow along. My background is in game-based learning, and I create and engineer learning environments. So out of that game-based learning space, I have done a lot of research and reading around how games are designed. One of my favorite books is at the top here. It's called The Art of Game Design by Jesse Schell out of Carnegie Mellon. And in it, he has a great diagram about these principles of game design. They're here to the right: the aesthetic, the mechanics, the technology, and the story. And the more visible these things are, the stronger the game is, and the argument is that it can be more successful. He has about 82 principles or 84 principles that he talks about throughout this book. And what I want to talk about is the fact that finance is a game and notes are a game. We'll get further into that in the next slide. But when we're talking about a game, a game of life, a game of finance, game of relationships, they are generally defined by principles. Okay, so when we're talking about a game, it has principles. And these principles are important for how you navigate within that game space, okay? So they always have definitive rules. They generally are made up of teams, and even the individual game at the highest levels are always based on teams. I always love talking about one of my favorite athletes of all time, Serena Williams. Serena Williams goes out and plays a solo game of tennis. She is not a solo institution. Okay? Serena Williams is an institution, and that is made up of teams. She has a coach. She has a family. She has specialists. She has what we would consider vendors, right, that help her to elevate her game to where she is. She might be the head or the face, but she is not alone. So there's always teams when we're talking about games. And even if you play a solo game like a chess or something, there's the me, myself, and I principle. You got to learn about that on your own. And so there's always risk management. There's always a story. Okay, stories are very important. They tell an origin, and obviously a midpoint and then a reflection point. But stories are really important because they give us a narrative of where a person came from, how they make the decisions within the game, what types of strategies they're bringing to the table based on their lived experiences. And so games always have a storyline in them somewhere, and they have mechanics, and the mechanics are the technical tools and uses of those tools that they bring to the table. So that defines a game. So now that we all understand what a game is, let's talk about the finance game, or rather the note finance game in particular. Very important to understand this. I would say, and this is my opinion only, that the finance game for notes consists of these basic ideas in toolkits, and there are more. Just like I said, Jesse Show had about 82 principles, right? These are some of the basics. These are the only ones I can cover in 15 minutes. But these are the basics that I think are critical for people that want to be successful in notes. You need to understand what a UPB is, and UPB is the unpaid principal balance. And within the unpaid principal balance, you have your P&I, which is your principal and interest, but you also have your T&I, which is your taxes and insurance. Now, pay close attention because I might talk fast. I'm a New Yorker. P&I is the money coming back to you. T&I is the money that's going out. So you have your income and you have your expenses. It's very important to understand and distinguish the two because they usually are slapped together in what we would call rent, or what we would even call a mortgage sometimes. They're usually put together. So we need to understand the difference between the two within a UPB because that tells us what meat is left on the bone. For example, I give a $100,000 loan and it turns over 30 years into a $192,000 asset, and over 5 or 10 years, that thing is probably cut not that much, but probably down to about 150. There's still some meat on the bone there. There's $50,000 still sitting in there that someone else can extract on top of that principal. So you need to understand how to access it. COC is the metrics by which we understand the value of our money. All right, is a margin of profit. Right, so profit margin, ROI, the same thing, and yield being one of those types of metrics as well. And so sometimes they're interchangeable between them, but there are nuances between them as well, depending on what you're trying to look for, what your goals are. Last pay date and next due dates are really important. They communicate the arrears owed. Arrears meaning the back pay, the fees, the taxes, the what's owed to the lender. And so those numbers are really important. And then this last concept is really critical and key for a note investor in their finance game. They need to understand the time value of money. And the time value of money really simply says money now is worth more than money later. All right, because of that inflation principle. So something for you to really think about is the time value of money within this idea of the velocity of money, trying to turn that money over as fast as possible, but not being reckless. All right. Retail sale is really important. What that means is the value of the home, right? The property on the market, in the market. That's really important to understand because there's an as-is value, and then there's this retail value, which is the value that you can sell it at if it was all fixed up and rehabbed. Moving on. Delegation is hell of important. This is something that is a key for the mind of a banker because they understand systems. They understand that a realtor can do a job way better than they can. They understand their local demographic. They understand their local markets far better than you can, especially if you're trying to invest in all 50 states. And then you put municipalities on top of that. It exponentially expands the volume of work that you need to do. So realtors are really important. Your servicers are really important. Your legal team is really important. And that's why I actually have them first, because they are the first point of contact you want to be able to get in touch with besides your servicers, to understand what your boundaries are within that municipality, because they're all different across all 50 states. And I'm talking about investing in the US of A, of course. Your insurance companies, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how important they are. Your insurance companies are going to CYA all day in case your investment goes kaput. There could be a flood. There could be a fire. There could be a demolition. The roof could cave in. You want to protect your lender rights and your asset. And so insurance is really important. A property manager is really important too. Depending on what type of asset you have, property managers can save you time and money. And it's a really good idea to think or look into one if it makes sense for you and your budget. But the bankers are usually thinking about these things. All right, here we go. We're going to spend a little bit of time here before I move on to the last slide, because bankers have a different mindset. They do have a growth mindset if you want to have the conversation of growth mindset versus fixed mindset. But it's all about how they wake up in the morning and how they're thinking and the conversations that they're having between their ears. That is really what sets apart the banker from everyone else. They have a set of principles that they can work under and within, but for the most part, they've got a positive mindset. They've got positive thinking. They can overcome the challenges, and they aren't discouraged by every minor and or major bit of information that they receive. I'll give you an example. I'm looking at an asset right now, and it's got a significant lien on it. When I say significant, I mean hundreds of thousands of dollars. Guess what my mentor said? We can get over that. Without even blinking, she said, we got this, no problem. What? And this would make grown men cry, right? If they saw that, they'd be running for their mommies. But, my mentor was like, we got this, no problem. We'll figure this out. What? Mindset of a banker is uniquely different. It's about seeing the risk on the right side and being able to understand that you have a set of tools and an attitude that is unique and can overcome the paperwork, can overcome the issues, or at least find out what are the key triggers that need to be pushed and need to be pulled in order to, achieve your goals, and doing that with a calm mindset. And so I've been not lucky, really blessed to have a group of individuals around me that have this mindset and help me to build it for myself. But these two things are key for bankers: their mindsets and their ability to understand risk management and really get after their goals, regardless of the surface information that they hear. They dig deeper. So here's the last bit of information here. I'm going to walk you through it, and I definitely want to spend time on that last one for you as we close out. Inside the mind of a banker are three, in my opinion, things that really separate them from, common patrons. And the first thing is them waking up, hitting the feet, hitting the floor, and them going, you know what, I deserve a piece of this pie. I deserve this cash flow. I deserve this deal. I deserve this opportunity. I deserve this chance. I deserve this relationship. There is a sense of ownership in understanding that their life and their desires they're earned. They deserve it. It's theirs. They already claim it. As soon as their feet hit the floor, they claim it. Whatever that thing is, they want it, they're going to claim it, and they're going to get it. The end. Because they deserve it. It's theirs. That's a really important mindset to come to the table with when your feet hit the floor every day. Okay? Here's the next one. The relationships are king. Some people say cash is king. Cash is not king. Cash is pawn. Assets are really what are important, and more important even than just the assets, because the assets could be deteriorating, right? They could be diminishing assets, and you can get diminishing returns. So here's how I would say this. People that invest in bankers, they understand a concept called deal flow. Their ability to access the deals and them coming to them. And that only comes through relationships. You can't just generate the deal flow. Some people, I guess they can. They're a special, unique breed. But for the most part, the deals are coming to you, or you have access to it. And having access and getting deals is a matter of relationships, period. And so the relationships they value more than the money, because they understand that with the relationships, there's a speed of trust. All right. People only do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And so they spend a lot of time doing those things, building relationships, going to coffee, going to lunch, spending time in fellowship with the people that they can do business with. Here's the last one, and I'm going to spend, I know I'm over a little bit here, but I'm going to spend a little time here. I want you to understand this velocity of money to cash flow. Velocity of money is really important, the speed at which you can turn over the money. And you do that with respect, and you do that with care. but it's about cash flow. It's always about increasing cash flow. That is the end game. All right, 10,000 a month to 20,000 a month to 30,000 a month, and securing it in a way that is sustainable. And I've talked about that in my previous videos. But this is really where the mindset of a banker is. How do we increase 2% per month? How do we increase 5% per quarter? Whatever those numbers are based on their goals. But it is the velocity of money to cash flow that is the key. Being able to move the money, keep the money engine turning so that they can increase incrementally the volume of cash that comes into their coffers. Bada bing, bada boom. Listen, if you want to know more, hit me up, jason.eestates@eestates.net. I'm doing some really cool things now. There will be some webinars that you want to look out for come June, and actually a special opportunity come July and August that you're going to want to listen out for. But in the meantime, I hope you're well, and I hope that everything's going in your direction, one family.